Final hour of the trading session. Welcome back to the close. Let's have a look at really what is happening this afternoon because, yeah, no one really cares about the overall market, guys, because meme stocks apparently are back. Have a look at GME. 30% to the upside at this point was higher than that. Look at the volume behind this. The entire group, pick one right now, rallying here on a random Tuesday in August, guys. Let's get into the final hour of the trading session.
Wow. So look, you guys are probably not going to be shocked to see it, and like apes are going to say whatever they're going to say, but it doesn't really matter at this point. I'll go over it very, very quickly. The last thing I said in the chat was, unless we get 2 levels down or 2 steps down on GameStop or AMC, which I haven't seen yet, like every time it extends up, it'll give one look down to support and then not break it. So it'll fill some people, give you some wins so you can make some of it back, and then it never really capitulates that second level. The second that happens on one of these names, the rest will go. Now, I was in context logic for the bulk of this because it was holding, cost was as well, but it was holding highs throughout that top while you're getting extended moves. Like I was able to hold on to context logic while GameStop was breaking out 200. Like I showed it all the way upside here. I'm actually dead flat on GameStop. Well, we'll see. Position pending, of course. At this particular point, if we were to close at this price, we'd actually end up on the stock. But at the end of the day, as it got more parabolic, I got more and more impatient, and then Wish just finding a secondary name here that looked a little bit weaker. Now, for those of you like, why can't you go long? Because I don't make a trade unless I have an out. And when it gets to the point where I don't have an out, I'm backing off and waiting for a turn because that's where I can actually structure a trade. And that's what I've done here. So believe it or not, I'm bidding down in the down at 201. I feel like it almost should be at 205 as strong as GameStop has been. But I'm not going to sit here like celebrating and hoot and hollering at like a $10 winner on GameStop, because the reality is I'll have done better on some other names here because I was more patient, and that could be that context logic. But everything across the board, every squeeze stock you can think of is up, and they look like they're rolling over because now finally, like, you know, GameStop is actually breaking this 215 down into this 210. If 210 goes, you're likely to see 7 on Wish. You're likely to see Robinhood fall from 50. AMC will probably come back to 42 is what I'm looking at here. So I might have missed a couple of names, but I can only watch so many at one time.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, today's been quite an interesting day across the board. We've had a bunch of stocks. Remember AMC, I was long this morning. I ended up getting out before the ride even started on AMC. And then it took off and then quieted down. And then obviously you saw what happened in the afternoon when this thing really got going. We got as high as 48 even. And I am short on AMC, 44.96. And this is my logic. And if that works for you, we'll see how that goes. I'm thinking that we are, even though this move may be to the upside, logistically speaking, the way we've gone up had to be done through program buying. So at some point, that program has to turn off. If that's a means of liquidation of a portfolio or whatever the case is, at some point that has to stop. So when we get to a word that Neil likes to use, capitulation top, well, I would think that's enough volume to actually stall this market and bring it back down. So I went ahead and took a short on AMC, expecting that to be the top. It seemed like we were really struggling above 45. Volume came in on the sell side. So, you know what, let's take a shot at 45 on the short side. Here we are in a $1.30 winner. How far does this go? It's just a matter of letting the bids drop off, right? At some point, when buying is going to keep this market going and buying just stops, well, the market has to fall off a little bit. How far, that will be the story that will be told throughout the rest of the day. Keep in mind, final hour, profit taking. Anyone who's long on AMC, who's been sitting in a position that's underwater as well, well, maybe now you're finally in the money, you're starting to take profit. Some people, not everyone, but that could be the logic as well from the portfolio side, whatever the case is. So that's the way I'm looking at it, and I'm thinking we went up way too fast for this to continue going at this speed. So whatever the break is, whatever a temporary setback we're gonna have, well, I like to be a part of that on the short side. So that's the short that I took. Couple positions from this morning I do want to take care of though. BPTH, remember that short at 718 or so? Yeah, we held that throughout the day. We got 680s out and we finally got some out of 660. Another trade that I had from this morning was Macy's. I got into this trade just as we were closing up shop on the show here at 23.18 or 15 or something like that. What is it? The 23.18 actually. Held that. Here we are, got some out in front of 60s. That's about a 40-something cent winner. And I've still got some left here. The trailing stop on this is just below 23.40. So we'll let that one go. Another trade I took while the show was off air was Square, 272 break. Remember, we were looking for 274 to the upside. but the 272 break through the downside opened up a short, so why not go short 272, put a stop at 274, take some profit in front of 270, and here you see my 2 exits. I am completely flat on square as well. Now it's a matter of how do I protect this GameStop short? Although I wanted to see this kind of a move, I've got to protect this, right? Do I expect this to keep on going forever? Well, I'll let the chart decide for me, but I do have to protect my profit. So I'm thinking 44.50 and change, at least lock in about 40 cents or so. I don't need to put up any more risk. I've already made I guess I've made enough to bring my stop down so I can actually protect some profits in the event that this does turn around towards the close. But for now, it is $1.30 in the money.
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, like this is, even like I just said, like a couple of levels down it needs to take. Like GameStop just took the second one, and look, I waited. Once it got to 200, I waited for 200, and then 210, and then 225 on the turn. I'm out at 205 now. You could say this stock has a chance to halt down. Sure, 195 looks like it made a heck of a lot of sense, but at the end of the day, I'm going to hold on to context logic because it was relatively weak in this entire move. Robinhood, that 50 level was an actual level and has been one this entire time. And when that stands out for me, I kind of feel more comfortable with it. But this is like Arun said, like there's going to be program buying. It could be liquidation. There's a lot of things that this could be. I just kind of feel like there's ways to trade this as a day trader, which ultimately you can take advantage of what price action that was probably going to happen anyways. I can tell you guys, on GameStop in particular, because that's what I happened to be watching, when this short came in, this was like at the 210, I think it was the 210 break, I want to say. You know what, actually, no, check that. I think it was this like this 200 break. It failed, broke 200, got to 202 and came back down. I was like, okay, got it, because this 95 gave me a nice $5 winner. I'm like, this is sitting good. Next thing I know, I'm stopping out at the top. But when 200 did a failed break and I was able to get literally 200 on the way back down, it is an average price, there was then an actual seller at 201. Like someone that went for it and got taken out here, and then we made sure we were disciplined with that. So you've been seeing some people step in big time at some of these levels to the upside, whether it's just like it gets held in the dark and you can just see the battle getting waged in the midpoint, or you actually see legitimate orders getting put through. It doesn't matter what day trader like me is going to do here, to be perfectly honest. Like that can look, oh yeah, don't short this stock, give me a break. Us getting in and out of the day trade, it's not going to make too much of a difference to what goes on here, but you're going to want to know what's going on in terms of price action regardless. Just to go over some other names, because I know it's not just GameStop and GME here. When I talk about like two levels getting taken out, look at Clover, right? Like I know $9 is even, but it actually just held 882. Right, so this would have been like a secondary breakout prices. They all went parabolic. This has managed to not even break down that level. Okay, sure, it checked up at 9. That's more of a psychological thing. Makes some sense because GME and AMC also checked up at that midpoint level. So you're not really capitulating until you're taking some of these out. And that's why I gave up the ghost on GameStop. I would rather, as I said, hold on to a Robinhood, where when I saw Robinhood breaking 50, all I could think about was I didn't have to actually look back to what I liked about this stock at that 50 level. I knew there was a flush just a couple of days ago through that exact same price. And not the first time that it broke down at 50. Okay, so it's broken 50 before, but every single time we've had a chance and missed on 50, there was a 50 break. When it's actually breaking through that price, you see continuation, break and continuation. So if it was going to be sitting at the top there, that was just an easier trade for me to structure. That sits in the money nicely. Wish sits in the money nicely. There's some other stuff to go over, and we'll definitely start talking about some other names here. And I apologize if those of you are like, we're only talking about the meme stocks. Well, you guys have seen what happens. We're traders. We're going to trade what moves. We're going to take the trades that make sense to us. The opportunities that are going to be there in August, ones like this, I just blanked because I was actually trying to think of like a time in August where there was an afternoon that had anything like this. And quite frankly, Arun, I can't think of anything. Maybe there's been a big day in August where you've had some big monster moves going into the close. I can't think of anything, so we got to cover the meme names. Brendo?
It's been a long time, that is for sure. Here is another one, guys, that keep in mind. If we're talking about stocks that have higher short interest, right? Workhorse jumps off the page right away. Only, at this point, we say only 5.5%. Just made a day high there as well for Workhorse, guys. Volume coming into this one now.
All right, let's take a look at some other names. Well, obviously they're coming off a little bit, not Best Buy, BlackBerry, our favorite phone maker here. It is coming off that 11 even, 1125, I guess, top end at this point. It's coming back down a little bit. All the stocks seem to be coming off slightly. Now you see my AMC position. I have gotten out of the position. All I wanted to do was see how much selling was left. Well, clearly when we got to 43 and we bounced back strong, there's enough buying there for me to say, you know what, it's time for me to walk away. 70-cent winner, that's good. Now, who doesn't like 70 cents on a quick move there? So there you go. There's your trade. I am flat on AMC. Square was a position we had taken earlier in this morning. This is actually starting to look towards 269, and I think this might be a trade for tomorrow. Whether they take this today or not, I do want to look at Square on a short side move below 269 in the morning tomorrow for the rest of the day. And Macy's obviously the one position I still have left. Again, that's been trailed, and that's been a fairly quiet mover. Another trade, oh man, this one I kind of messed this one up. Hood. I was actually long on Hood this morning. Remember, we were long at 42. Oh, why is not? There we go. We were long at not 42, 47.50 right here, and then held on, and then it just kind of stalled out around 48, and then I kind of walked away, and you see Hood right towards 50, and there it goes on Hood. One thing I am going to do is 3 o'clock, but we can still talk about this. One thing I am going to do is I'm going to put up the imbalance locator, and I'm going to put up the imbalances for, let's say, the top 4 stocks that are really moving right now aggressively. So I've got AMC, GME, Hood. Let's put up BlackBerry, maybe some Wish. If you guys have a couple more high flyers that you want to see imbalances on, that might actually change the direction of the stock after they come out at 350. Just put them in the chat and I'll put them up as well. For now, though, doesn't seem to be a whole lot. Let's take a quick look at the futures. Where are we on the futures? We are at 87. Again, top end of the, not a range, but top end of this little band that we've been trading. We've been looking for a long below 80 all day. Haven't been able to get back down there. And especially now, if we come back below 85, I'm not sure I'd want it long at 80, given how much time's left in the day. So we're going to have to put a pause on the futures trading. That's not a surprise at all, given that it's August, is late August, and a lot of people are on vacation. Well, you see Sean's not on vacation, or Sean is on vacation, and Neil's going to be gone next week. So it's not surprising that moves are going to be quiet for the most part, unless you have a catalyst. And I'm sure tomorrow, I'm sure there's going to be an article talking about the reasoning behind all of this. And my guess is that there's being a portfolio being liquidated with GME as being a top holding on the short side. That's my guess, but again, that we'll find out tomorrow, I'm sure.
Yeah, look, this is the thing. Like, people will say, okay, is this a short squeeze? Like, is this like, it could just be a liquidation, which may be preceded by a bit of a squeeze. Is it retail pumping it up? But then it's a little bit of everything. Like, someone was asking, like, why are they all going at the same time? And the explanation I put in the chat was, you know, the reality is, I was like, I mean, not right now, but I mean, like, I was short 4 of these at the same time. And I think a lot of traders and a lot of programs probably were thinking along the same lines. Like, if you're trying to catch a turn, I mean, you might as well balance it out, that kind of thing. And you're going to see people with cross exposure, and that's why they can move all at the same time. And that's just, it's a feature that's been in the market for quite some time now. And it's not only algos. I mean, individual traders do it all the time. I know I'm not the only trader that's traded at Day Trade the World or on the floors that I've been on that trades in that manner. So. Just to update what's going on here. Look, I'm not saying I probably got out early on GameStop, but I really don't mind it. Like, I was sitting in front of 200, just sort of looking back to, if I find key levels on the way up that mattered and then were sort of tipping points, then we usually use those on the way out. So before it was that 201 where that seller was, that I actually stopped out of this short here, which was looking pretty good at one moment. And then I ended up going back into this one where it was going pretty good on that 210 short for me, and then I ended up getting out at similar 205 and then break even. Well, in this case, that's where I'm going to get out. I'm going to hold it down for that 205. So maybe it goes to 200. I don't know. I'm going to hang on to the 2 that I got, guys. But there's going to be so much. And again, like, we can call out symbols all we want here, but like I see you guys typing in like Nicola, and without even looking, is there any shock to me? Come on, let's go, Nicola. You're on the NASDAQ. Is there any shock to me that it's going? But this one just went. Right now, it's like, whoa, do I have an aversion to longs? Would I go long in Nicola right now when most of these names have already just pulled back, like 10% on AMC, a good 7% on GameStop, Wish is pulled back, probably like 3 points here, and Nicola's taking out highs? I wouldn't be long at the top of a move like that in Nikola. There's just no way. I might be looking for a level that I can jump into that one to the south side in case it comes back. Because as far as I'm concerned, until proven otherwise, these are all sympathy pushes to the upside, and I want to fade them as long as the big boys are holding off of those highs. Brendo?
Yeah, somebody was talking about short interest video. You kind of have to dust off your high short interest list from a couple of months back here. I was just going to mention this one, guys. Nikola. Just checking the latest number here, which is back at the end of July, 11.9%. So, yeah, Nikola, Workhorse, all of those names from way back when seem to be targets this afternoon, guys.
All right, so somebody did put up some symbols in the chat. I've got those names up here. I've got AMC, for the imbalance locator for later today, I've got AMC, GME, Hood, BlackBerry, Wish, Workhorse, Clover, SBCE, and EDU. So those are the symbols we're going to work with for the close on the imbalance. And now we're back to AMC. I'm actually starting to think that now we go back to the buy side on AMC. Remember, we're day traders, right? So we flip directions quite often. It's not a matter of holding. We are flat by the end of the day. So for us, we can go either way we want. And I'm starting to think, well, you know what? Remember, the reason I got out of that short was because of the support around 43. Well, why not spin this trade around and find some more support in the mid to low 40s? Say 44.50, 44.20-ish, and if we get the support there, then maybe take a shot on the long side into the close to try and take out this high. That would be a great trade if it sets up. I'm going to keep an eye on it and see if we can grab that setup. If it does set up, then I definitely want to be a part of this long with a $1.50 risk.
I think, oh my goodness, did my daily chart just freeze there? Okay, yeah, daily froze. But I think one of the things that you want to keep in mind, too, for all of these, is this is day one. Like, some of these have been making some moves, obviously. I'll pull up to 15 minutes so you can see AMC has been making some higher lows on the way to this breakout. So there was a technical break here, 39, that kind of preceded some of this. But at the end of the day, this could be a break into a new range, and you want to make sure you're sort of playing this the next couple of days and figuring out what the levels can be. I mean, I just can't see it dropping. This is all you need on the 15-minute. This 41, sort of 40 half to 41 area. Like, I can't see that getting taken out as strong as these have been here. So I would anticipate there's going to be some opportunities on the way down. And even if you take out that 41, like, you're asking yourself, and this is that level right in here. I just went back in the 15 to show what it was in terms of resistance. Even if you take it out, that was a 38, 39 break. Those could be gifts. Like, when was the last time that you saw this wide of a move happen on the squeezes that lasted one day? Like, I understand there was that new SEC rule, and now that I mention it, like, I kind of said when that new rule came in about, sort of checking shorts and positions on a daily basis, and then, having to liquidate maybe even the same day, I kind of felt like there'd be shorter duration events and then more of them. So I'm kind of speaking against myself here, but I still don't feel like this will be a one-day thing. And that's why if you do pull back far enough, there could be some levels that are going to be actionable on at least a few of these names here, guys. Now, okay, so I mentioned Clover. I didn't trade Clover. It was holding that 880 level, and wow, this is strong. So it's trying to get past 9. This is a lower high that it's putting in. And I'm just kind of checking up here. 210 still holding on GameStop. 45 now holding on AMC. These are all the same chart. Like, Context Logic with a 740 top is holding 720. I'm actually in that one. Robinhood with a 50 high is holding 49.50. Every single one of these stocks is now dropped down a level and consolidated. So if you're holding a long position, like, it makes it that you're in a tricky proposition, because there was a point where it was, and I was watching costs in particular, where you get breaking out highs on AMC and GameStop, and then you'd be able to take a level, like a big level, like 20 was holding on costs, where, okay, now you can trade that with the others as a leading indicator. I kind of feel like that's gone away, and now we're floating on our own here. So I got to watch these positions, because it's not a thing where I can just sit here and say, yeah, as long as we look weak on GameStop, I'll get a lead. If GameStop breaks 210, I'll be able to get out of Wish, and it should be okay. That might not be the case, because they're all at basically the same levels here that I look at my chart.
Yeah, well, when somebody in the chat mentioned Wynn being on fire today, yeah, it's up 8%. Then I took a quick look at all the other hotel stocks, specifically Caesars and MGM. They're all up today as a sector. They've all gone in one direction. So let's take a quick look at CZR. And CZR is up 8%. Right, and MGM is up quite a bit too. MGM's, I think, at 4 or something like that. It's up 4%. Yeah, MGM's up 4%. So they're all fairly strong in the same direction, which makes me think, you know what, we might actually have a setup in the entire sector tomorrow. So let's see if we can grab some long-term, not positions, but multi-day setups to play for tomorrow after. We'll deal with it tomorrow in the morning, but still, this is something I want to set aside for tomorrow just because I'm starting to see this happen across the board. Thank you for the chat for putting that up. MGM is breaking down. Well, that's not actually what I wanted to see. I wanted to see AMC because now I'm starting to think maybe I want to go back to the short side of this. Maybe now I'm thinking, you know what? What if 43 goes? We can start to play 43 on the break downside and see if we can't get a quick dollar or two on AMC. We are at 320. We still got half an hour before the imbalances come out. And we might still get some aggressive movement because it does seem like the buyer has moved out of the way now and the sellers are back on. Whoever that is, whatever that is, if that's a matter of shorts piling in or if it's just a matter of profit being taken, it does seem like the selling is back on in play on AMC. I was initially thinking, well, you know what, if the buyers are going to bounce off of 43, maybe we can actually use that as support to go for the long. I'm not sure about that anymore. Not yet anyways. Maybe tomorrow's a different story, but today at least, it does seem like we're going to get some more sell-side activity going into the end of the day.
I'm going to hit this one. I'm going to hit the congratulations, because I feel like, look, there's obviously some great opportunities here today, and congratulations. Thank you guys for pointing out some of the things that are still moving really well. I mean, Moderna just popped $12 off the bottom.
Oh, wow.
Right? Like, this was a stock which had been just defecating all over itself all morning, and I talked about missing out on a possible chance and a shot here at 400 in the morning, which it gave you 2 cracks at this 400 level, breaking down and then sort of retesting it here. I mean, crap, it's 3 times. I mean, technically, it's 4 times, really, if I'm thinking about it, that you could have had around a 400 short. And then we're actually getting right back up here. So now you're going to tell me, and one thing I can tell you is I know there's a lot of retail interest in Moderna recently, for sure. So, but there's not like it's a ridiculous short interest or anything. So this is more than just, a lot of this is going to be a liquidity vacuum as well, which I probably should have said, and I might have used those terms sort of interchangeably here, but it's August and there's lower volume, so that means when liquidity vacuums open up, I got to cancel some bids on Wish. GameStop's going through 200, guys. So GameStop just went first, and it just went through 200. So I kind of feel like, and you just saw, like, fucking Moderna was about to pop down as well. So GameStop goes first, Moderna's falling down. So this is a pure, this is like all the retail like interest names here are coming in, because that's not a squeeze on that move on Moderna. No way, no how. But I'm going to get some more shares out now in the low 7s on Context Logic after canceling one up there at 10, and GameStop and AMC both breaking some of the support right now. Oddly enough, Robinhood's holding 49, which is actually a pretty solid level. Brendo?
I was just checking on this SGOC. My short interest number is not coming up, though, because it's going as well, guys. 21% here for SGOC. You can see big buyers stepping up, trying to lift this one now.
I'm back on the short on AMC after breaking 43. Let's see if we can't grab a quick move down towards 41 and change, 41.50 maybe. It all depends. It's all about acceleration at this point. If the buy interest is done, I think we have a chance. But again, it depends on how much support we're going to get as we move through these levels. For now, it does seem like there's some hesitation around 43, but I'm okay with being on the short side of this. I've made 75 cents on the first trade. I'm willing to risk it all with another short here. I'll put my stop just above 44, so $1 and change in risk. I'll be down like 20 or 30 cents if this trade doesn't end up working out. I'm okay with that, but I do think the downside potential is much higher now that we've seen some selling pick back up and come back in as we're starting to. Every time we're bouncing, it seems like there's some selling coming in. So let's play with that and see how far we can get and try to make some more money off of this. One thing I've still got that Macy's I'm holding on to. So I am looking to dump this below 40. We're going to leave this alone. Macy's is, relatively speaking, with all of these huge movers that we're seeing in front of us right now, Macy's was quite a sleeper, right? This took from 10:45 this morning to now to get about 40 cents. So it's not as fun, but it does make money. If you can't do the fast game, you can do the slow game, and Macy's is part of the slow game move, at least for today. So there is money there, and I've been making some. So let's try to lock some more of that in as we get closer and closer to the end here. Imbalances are out in about 30, 35 minutes or so. No, 25 minutes or so. And apart from that, I don't really have a whole lot. Just the AMC short and the Macy's long that I'm still managing.
And thank you guys for pointing out Uber moving to the downside. Now, I just gave an answer in the chat too. It's Bradley Taylor was asking about what a liquidity vacuum is. the best way to explain it is if you look at look at Uber right here. It just happened to be checking the stock out, right? Like, see the market that's getting made. You got like hundreds of shares, up to like a few thousand shares in the bid and the ask. And as it moves to the price, you can probably tell real liquidity is on like 6 or 7 gateways for a few hundred shares, and then you might get some extra posts. But there's constantly that amount of liquidity at each level, whether it gets printed or not. So you've got most of market making now, which is those bids and offers, that's done by, it's just algos that are doing most of that market making. So what happens in a liquidity vacuum is they're only going to post at prices they're confident that if they get fast fills and they can front run, they're going to be positive trades for them. So what will happen in a vacuum is they just pull, right? So what ends up happening with, and I'll talk about like GameStop, right? So what ends up happening when this turns at 225, or even to the upside, of course, in a squeeze it makes more sense, or what happened when it finally broke this like random 213 buyer, is nobody bids the stock. Like the only, like I'll tell you right now, like nobody's really bidding until it gets down into that 205, and that regular market making, like the few orders that you see constantly at each price, whether they want to take a fill or not, like they just back off. So they're now bidding even deeper. So there's no size for anyone to hit. So when you're trying to get out of your long position, when you get a capitulation like that in a liquidity vacuum or like a mini flash crash, it's just that regular bid ask isn't there. And one of the reasons why people complain about, I guess, algos taking over, because it used to be, especially on the New York, where you'd have floor brokers that would supply that liquidity, and they'd be less likely to just completely pull off the book in the event of a big move. Now that happens more now, so that's why you get these mini flash crashes, because look, the algos are too bloody smart if they see that kind of momentum to the downside to still be sticking around on the bid and just taking those nonsense fills. They're going to pull back their book, and that's why you're going to get those flash moves into the downside. And the reality is people are going to hate on Arun for a day-to-day basis. Day traders who are getting in and out for those quick trades that end up providing bids when you get that push to the downside. Like a lot of times it is the actual short covering. The person leaning on GameStop at the top here at 225, a lot of those guys are still in that puppy. Trust me. Like whoever caused this turn, they're sitting pretty and they're still holding it. Like they're not sitting there buying at that 217 level, or they might be doing a little bit, of course, of it, but they're not just loading back into it. Maybe at 200 they are. So, that's what we talk about with liquidity. You've got to be very, very careful. It's obvious to see when it happens on the level too, but if you're only looking at a chart, not all of these candles are the same. Brendo?
I was just going to mention an actual trade from this morning that we were talking about, or an actual stock that we were talking about this morning. Pinduoduo, guys, up 22% on the day following earnings. $100 right above us here. We've already cleared some significant levels after better than expected results for PDD.
So apparently on AMC there was some talk on the California ruling for Uber, so that's what caused it to move to the downside. Speaking of stocks that we actually did trade, I put on, what was that? Sorry?
No, it's not.
Oh, sorry. No, I should have Valeria. Sorry, apologies there. Pinduoduo was the stock that I was shorting as I was in the Alibaba long, sort of wanting exposure in either direction the Chinese names went. And I had this one pretty good at 97. It then found support at this level right here at 95.5. And eventually, as it started breaking to the upside, I just flatted this thing, or basically close to flat. Probably should have reversed into a long at the time. I was holding out hope that Alibaba was going to continue to go. And I can show you what happened with Alibaba. There we go. Which is that it actually made a bit of a comeback here. But we came back on the show and I was just like, this is barcoding. And Alibaba, and I gave up so much of this. This will be the trade of the day, but I knew I should have taken this off at 174 here. I tried to hold out for the home run. Thankfully, shorting that Pinduoduo allowed me to make up for the fact that I didn't cover Alibaba, but that doesn't make it the right thing to have not gotten anything out of Alibaba and then just basically given up on it at VWAP, because quite frankly, I actually didn't want the distraction. I got out of my Coinbase trade as well, because I just sort of felt like, I got that, if I'm trading Robinhood because it's moving with some of these other names, I didn't want to be caught up. There we go, Coinbase. I didn't want to be caught up holding Coinbase when it had already found some support at VWAP, gotten right back, retested the high and was holding a higher low. Like, it was a great level at 260, but at this point here, I'm like, it's about to chop itself up at 258. I have no problems just getting out and moving on to the next trade. For those of you guys that are still watching, I got AMC. Interesting. So 400 just bounced and held on GameStop, but AMC holding like a 43. So at least a little bit relatively weak on AMC for now, because GameStop bounced off 200. And I apologize for saying GameStop, I think I said out loud GameStop was breaking 200. It traded down to 200 and bounced off 200. So apologies there. It actually bounced back up and is looking to retest that 210. So I feel like it was the right decision to get out of that one and not think that it's hitting a home run back down to like 190 or 185. I kind of feel the same way about AMC. I'd be shocked if it came down to 41. I could structure a long trade at like 42 to 41, maybe off of 42. It's just when I can't figure out an out for my trade as a day trader, I just don't put it on.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, there's probably swings that you could make off levels up here, I suppose. I don't love any of them. But for me, if I don't have an out, I can't do it. It would have made a heck of a lot more sense to me if we dropped like another $1 or so, maybe even $1.50 on AMC. And you know what? Hey, maybe that gives some cover for people long here that there's others that are probably looking for a bit of a bigger move to the downside before they start actually thinking about participating in this absolute craziness. But hey, you can go both ways as a day trader. There are lots of ways to skin a cat and make money. No cats were skinned in the making of this video.
Yeah, and it's clearly AMC. There you go. There's an exit on AMC. So clearly, there's a good declaration of support in that 43 area. Initially, we had bounced, then we took it, and I went for the second short the second time, obviously. And here we are back above it. So I'm net down like 20 cents overall between the two trades. So hey, you know what? That's part of the game, I guess. And when we see a move like that, we want to be participating whichever direction it wants to go. So that's kind of trading as a day trader for you guys. One thing I did want to add, though, with not imbalances, with liquidity events, when there's no liquidity, think of it this way. If you send a market order and there's no liquidity, that market order is going to go look for liquidity to get you out. Say you're long and you're selling with the market order, right? You market sell. Well, if it goes looking for liquidity and there's nothing, you're going to start taking out levels that you don't want. You're going to start taking out prices that you don't want. So that is my suggestion. Start using market stop limits if you choose to go use a market lower order, just to avoid that situation, because you might end up with a fill that you really don't want at a price that you don't want either. So just be careful with market orders, and that because they do go search for liquidity, right? You don't want to be priced out when you really don't want to pay up that far. Brendan, what's up?
Another one that popped up going back a couple of months ago, guys. Remember this Newegg just starting to go here? It did pop up this afternoon, but more volume now through 19. Remember this thing ran up to 69.70 going back to July, a couple of months for Newegg.
So for anyone that's having the issue, like apparently there's an issue with YouTube. So if you see it like skipping or whatnot, just hit refresh. Valeri's been saying it in the chat, I think. If you refresh, things should be a little bit better. It's not on our end from what I'm being told, so apologies there, but there is a solution that's out there for you guys. Now there's a lot of names that are moving. I want to get to one because this was a missed opportunity. Arun and I were talking about this before all this meme stuff happened. Whatever. I mean, I shouldn't forget about calling it meme stuff because actually it's more widespread than that, right? So with these it's not even a flash crash. I don't have a name for this because it's the other side. Flash run, like whatever it might be. But anyways, this liquidity event that's happening on many names. There's other stocks that ran and look, Best Buy was on the list this morning and liked it for a long trade and just never got to it because there was so much going on. And when you're having a good day, I could sit here and we could celebrate it, but this was pretty clean. It was pretty thinly traded in the pre-market, however. But the simple fact, and you look at what happened at 9:30, where it actually gave a dip right into that 116.50, which was the pre-market low. It then gave you a break at that 117.50. Even the price that I sat here and wrote down, like a 119.5, right? Like even if you take that, it then still holds this pullback here, and chops around in that range, and eventually that becomes a 120 break. There were so many ways to be involved in what was a positive earnings play in the retail space, which has been going really well recently and has been extending through some of those moves. You saw that with Macy's. You saw that with Lowe's, which I think blew everybody's minds on its second day. So, I don't want to be ignoring what we're going to see aftermarket. It was going into tomorrow as well, where we do have Nordstrom's, which has a chance to be a bit of a mover. And there's still some earnings that we have to get to. It's not just, I keep saying meme stocks. I don't really know what else to call them here that are moving. There's lots of other opportunities out there. For those of you that are looking over in, I guess the Chinese names, DD, it's actually made a couple of tests at this 880 high. Well, technically it's like one time at 880, another time at 875. Really starting to slow down at the top here, however, and I kind of pull it back Let's go back. I kind of pull it back to this 15-minute, and this isn't a horrible level. Obviously, I like 9. I'd probably like 9 a little bit better, but it's not a horrible level that you'd expect a bit of a turn. I don't think at this time it doesn't feel like there's spillover at all from some of the names that are pushing to the upside, and then I guess like your Babas and your DDs and your Futu, go down the list, JD.com. I don't think there's anything related to those, so you can probably be trading these a little bit more normally if you're in them. If you've been riding this long breakout on DD for the last couple of days, or even right here, there was a couple of days worth of chop between 880 and like $9 that you might expect this could slow down. So on a normal day, it might actually already be sitting in the short on DD. But if you're tracking this name, it's not participating in this. So I wouldn't expect a spike just because this is something that a lot of people have been leaning on, not in the same way. So I kind of feel like you can trade this one a little bit normally, and it's coming into a chop zone anyways, where it might have had a consolidation or a turn. So maybe trade cautiously. If you're in this one to the long side, it would make sense to take some profit. Although candidly, I'm holding my Baba forever.
Yeah, so here we are just waiting on a couple things. Square I talked about earlier. Square is the one I want to look for tomorrow, 269 breaks. So that's because we tried 273 and 274 today and then failed, and here we are coming off of 269. If we can get that break tomorrow, that'd be a great trade, especially from the multi-day breakdown side of things. Now, the other trade I want to talk about is BTBT. Somebody asked in the chats, like, is this a good swing long? At the moment, I'm going to say no because the trend is down. There's some resistance above. Let's clear that resistance. If you want to look at swings, potentially you would have to clear the closest resistance level, which seems to be around 1150. So why not get this up to 12, and then maybe then you can say, you know what, we've got some support. Let's look for a swing trade. For anybody who is taking swing trades, I'm not going to give you exact like trades and stocks because that's not what I'm doing. But I do want you guys to understand that when it comes down to trading or making multi-day moves and multi-day holds, just be aware that you do want multi-day levels to get taken out just to provide you that extra confidence to actually get into a position and hold on to it and not just get shaken out when it moves slightly against you. As I'm talking here, I'm noticing that BlackBerry back above 11 even, 1110 and change, bouncing off this 11 even. So here we go. Maybe BlackBerry might take a shot to the upside. How is the other stocks doing? How is GME? Let's take a quick look at GME and back towards 210. So it does look like there's going to be a rotation to the buy side towards the end of the day, at least right now anyways. It seems like we're rotating back over. Maybe the selling event is kind of come and gone. So we'll just see how this plays out going into the end. Take a quick look at the futures. We've got about 13 minutes before the imbalances come out. Yeah, here we are at 85, right? If we come back through 85, I would say we would have to slow down to 80 to even consider a potential trade. I might go after the close. I sometimes take trades right into the end of the day just to see if I can actually work with some algorithms as they run their program closes. For now, though, I'm going to say no, nothing at 85. Maybe at 80, I might consider a potential trade. But for now, there's nothing there. And what else do we have? That's all I've got for now. Not a whole lot going on apart from that. Oh, someone said DKNG is running. Well, let's take a quick look at DKNG. DKNG is... Where is DKNG? Oh, there we go. DKNG. It is not New York. DKNG is not New York?
It's a NASDAQ stock. But that's like, oh,
that's not trippy. Okay.
What are you doing, DraftKings?
Yeah, DraftKings. Okay. DKNG, well, yeah, I see it. Potentially 5680 top end. It looks like we're going to take the top off towards the end of the day. But the problem is we've got about 12 minutes left before an imbalance comes out. I'm not a fan of taking a shot on these kind of setups this late in the day and this close to the imbalance. Because if the imbalance comes out negative on DKNG, you know this thing's going to spin right back around and come and make it a failed breakout trade. So maybe put a pin on that for another day. You might get a run, but again, the only reason I hesitate is because if you step in, you're putting up risk. Is that a risk I want to take at this time of day? Is it worth it? My answer to that would, personally, I wouldn't do it because of the time of day. That's the only reason. If the setup is stellar and that's a multi-day breakout that you're waiting for, by all means. But for me, though, on an intraday level, and I know I got to be flat by 4 o'clock, I'm not a fan of taking a shot like this with about 10 minutes left in the imbalance.
Yeah, and as some of these start to bounce into the upside, I know we're getting a lot of questions about something like a workhorse, which didn't really, for its level of short interest and why this isn't just like a pure squeeze necessarily, is this didn't really go very far. And I would certainly anticipate with the names that moved the way that they did, there would have been a decent shot that you could be actually seeing workhorse, right now trading at maybe like 11 or 12 bucks or so. But I kind of pull up the daily chart just so you can see that, at the end of the day, this is still actually putting in. Look, and I don't like workhorse personally. Well, it's not something that I'm going to endorse to own to the long side, but it's actually put in a capitulation bottom a couple of days ago, like some other names have, and is trying to break back out to the upside. It's just that, it's not really taking any levels out. Like almost every other name that I've looked at, I would include in this group that's running, once it got through what you'd consider the breakout, which would probably be around this 950 area, it's taken the next level out. And this one is stalled beneath that. So that's why I don't think it's participating in this move, at least per se. So, everyone wants to get their hopes up. I just don't think that this is one that's, for whatever reason, it's basically sitting it out. Kara, and again, this one kicked my butt this morning because I never got the reversal through 17. Tried to buy it on the dip, the reverse of sell that short move, and then never got the reverse of 17. This is still yet to truly find a bottom. It's trying to discover one here at 1450. And even then, it's not really a gigantic level. You'd kind of like to think that this would hold up here and then matter a little bit more, but it's probably closer down to that 14 even if it were to break 1450. I guess if it holds 14, there's a little something that's happening here for Kara, but overall, it was just an absolute flush into the downside all day long that I couldn't get a part of. And again, you might say, well, you short everything. Why wouldn't you just short on the way down? Well, if I don't have an out, then I'm not taking the position, right? So I couldn't find myself a short that made sense in terms of giving me an idea of where am I wrong first, and then where can I get into a position. And that's why, for me, I have trouble when it goes parabolic to the long side. I look for pullbacks that'll make sense for support, and that's why, to me, I feel like I just missed AMC because it would have made sense to me down a little bit closer. I think if even 42s, where you could play it off of 40 half, because 40 half was a bit of a level, and then risk reward $1.50 worth of risk up to that 45 is going to give you about 3. So it's that 2-to-1 area is going to make some sense. That, I can get behind that kind of a trade. And as a day trader, that's what I'm looking to do. It's not so much, oh, it's going up, I'm just going to punch long. And candidly speaking, this break actually probably gave you that at 42. At this time, I was laser focused, and I had up, and it was GameStop, and it was Cost, and it was Wish, and for the life of me, and Robinhood at the time, for the life of me, I don't know why I didn't pull up AMC, because if I had a chance to play both sides of it, I probably would have gone ahead and done so. On the way down, got to be patient. And as much as this trade might have worked, I don't see the risk to reward at 42.50, because the worst thing that can happen is you grab along here, it goes down, actually holds at 40.50, which is a more important level. You're getting it out at VWAP or something $1 early, and then you had it right, but then you didn't hold on to it. You do that 10 times out of 10, and you're usually going to be negative if you break a rule like that. So that's the only reason I wouldn't have been involved with it, guys. But certainly, it's definitely been an interesting trading day, to say the least. It's already 342, and I'm basically just sitting in these shorts that we're in right now, and now we're going to Brendan, of course.
Another one to maybe add to the list for tomorrow, guys, Dynavax. I was just reading this story about Dynavax. They rolled out a COVID-19 vaccine with a partner, Medigen vaccine, in Taiwan today. So they got approval for that. Some volume coming in here to DVAX right at the end of the day, up 10%. 2 days in a row as well. Nice looking chart here for Dynavax.
All right, so let's take a quick look. Since AME is a hot stock for the day, at least for the next few minutes before we get the imbalances, let's talk about AMC, GME, whatever, the big movers of the day, right? AMC, let's put some levels down that we can work with, because regardless of what happened today, we got to figure out how we're going to trade this tomorrow, because it's definitely going to be a part of the hot list, right? That group is going to be on deck in terms of making trades, right? GME, AMC, costs, Space, all those stocks that are there. Okay. Clearly, we've topped out around 48 and change, at least for the day. The high is 48.20, it looks like. So 48.20 is going to be the top end here. They're hesitating around 47 for the moment. Seems like 43 is going to establish itself as a support base. If we can actually hold above 40, I would say there could be potential support zone building through here, and a break towards the top here, break above the top. It can't just be a support or resistance break off the top. It has to get above and actually try to get back underneath and fail. Because at this point, it does look like the buying strength is picking back up in between 43.5 and 44. So I would say there's some strength here left in the market, at least for AMC. And as we remember from back when AMC and the GME and all those hot stocks were moving, a lot of the movement is in the aftermarket as well when it gets really, really thin. AMC has done 210 million shares, almost 211 million shares on the day. How much is GME at? GME is at 13 million shares on the day. So quite a bit of volatility, quite a bit of volume coming in to play this game. So for sure tomorrow, and in the pre-market, you're not going to have that kind, or pre-market and aftermarket today, you're not going to have that kind of resistance to any sort of movement. So if volume needs to be done, sometimes volume can be done quietly through. Well, we have access to these ECNs. So you'll see on this list here, you'll see ARCX, ARCA, NSDQ, NASDAQ. Some of those ECNs are available after the market has closed. As an ECN, you can actually send it directly to them, and they will fill you, and you can trade through them. Just be aware that when you do that kind of a move, you do lose the ability to take large sizes, and the spreads could really open up when the market's closed. But you can still trade post-market, and that's why you see a lot of post-market trading done. So volumes can get really, it doesn't take a whole lot of volume to move the stock a whole lot in the pre and post-market because of the spreads and because how you can get around sending those orders, right? Right now, if you route an order through the main exchange, it'll go to New York, or your routing combination, whatever your broker allows you to use. Whatever routing combination you use, it'll take liquidity from those ECNs and probably New York. But for now, after the market closes though, ARCA and NSB or NASDAQ will be the big players when it comes to volume and how trading needs to be done. And if we decide to go up using those ECNs, this will move up much quicker than you would expect.
Absolutely, and look, Arun's got that list, and he's going to have those imbalances when they come in 4 minutes. And this is one of those days where you don't normally always care, but if you look at the list that's building, I think we actually have some interest in what's going to show up for imbalances on GameStops and AMCs, and pretty much right down the list of any of these that are moving. Just from a higher time frame look here, not that it always matters, but there was actually a point today where I was, and again, like would have been like 225, where eventually there was that top. If this had gotten taken out, when I was saying that a lot of times, not 15 minutes, I should go back over to the 1 minute. Once we got through that 200 level, and it's like, okay, now wait for 2, and then wait for 210, then wait for 225. Above there, and this might come into play, it's about 240 to the next stop. And it's worth sort of noting here. I mean, I didn't really do the same thing on AMC because I was kind of trading in GameStop. That's why I was paying attention to it. But if this had gone, like, I was perfectly willing to just sit it out because I'm like, what am I supposed to do? Can't really do much until 240 because I'm not taking a 225 breakout. And again, some of these when it goes the other way, SNOA is going to be an example of what happens when a break goes the other way on you. And if I go back a couple of days on SNOA, and it's not to say that this will or is going to happen, but it can happen. Like I remember 13 when you're chasing a parabolic move and buying tops, right? And everyone wants to look at the diamond hands and holding on to it, but as a day trader, the flip side of that trade, and trust me, there were plenty of people that took that 13 break. And at the time, it looks ridiculous. But at the time, it actually set up pretty well for a long break on SNOA. And it still ended up at absolute best, if you're really fast, you're losing about 50 cents to $1. And trust me, till consolidation, you're losing $1 to $1.50 on that move. And that's a significant loss. Like, that's a 10% pullback to the downside. And I'm not saying that 225 would do the same thing to you on a GameStop, but for me, if I don't have a stop, I'm just not going to be doing it. One note here, because we talked about Moderna getting a bit of a bump just now, and look, again, I know it came up a little bit. It was only about like $10 or so, but Pfizer holding at the low, and that's why I kind of made that comment about it feeling like it being a little bit more retail interest, which I know momentum-wise, people are more apt to be playing a Moderna. Pfizer did absolutely nothing at the same time that Moderna was getting a move off the bottom, and their charts were basically the same, like dropping on pullbacks here after the exuberance that they've had with the FDA approval. Coming for one, Pfizer, BioNTech, and then waiting for it eventually coming on Moderna. They were both sort of pulling back in here. But barcoding now on Pfizer, worth noting that 50 level looks like it's going to be a bit of resistance for Pfizer in the near term. But hey, man, it's a great dividend stock. So I don't feel like this is something that you have to be too concerned about if you're holding it in your long term. I haven't sold anything because for me, it's like that forever hold, and it gives you cover. Usually on those market corrections, Pfizer's the kind of thing which is going to hold up a little bit better than the rest. Although with this last parabolic move that it's had, it could have some more leeway to the downside.
Talking about parabolic moves, man, look at Airbnb on the day. It was ridiculous. 149 break would have been the cleanest break. I mean, you could argue 148 as well, but I'm looking back to the left here. On the 18th, we kind of hesitated between 148 and 149, so I would have gone with 149 had I seen it. This was not on the radar. This just took off right off the open and just boom, 149 and hasn't stopped. It took a break at 158. But then really hasn't done a whole lot since then. So here we are at 161. How do we trade this going forward? Well, tomorrow I would say 157 would be the area of interest that I would look at because we spent a lot of time here, right? So if we can get it back underneath 160 and into 169 and it sets up on the buy side, maybe take a shot at the long side on Airbnb. Tomorrow we'll play that when it comes. Here we go with the imbalances. I've got AMC at the top, workers at the bottom, and the imbalances should be out now. Well, that was a dud. Okay, the largest AMC has a 2K imbalance, 2,500 shares. BlackBerry, 48,000 shares to the buy side. GME, 20,000 shares. Largest sell is Wish, 200,000 shares to the sell side. Not a whole lot. In terms of value, there's next to nothing here. But again, this is the first release at 3:55. We'll get an update from with the D quotes and from the floor on see what so we can see what the I guess the floor update would look like, because that could actually add to this, or it could actually completely reverse the imbalances. So there's two times frames that you got to watch out for, 350 and 355. Those are the two updates that you got to watch. The first one seems to be next to nothing, so maybe 355 will bring some volatility to the table.
And so, like, by the way, I just got out of my Robinhood. It can't seem to break that 49, so the 50 short only takes you to that 49 ultimately. The only name that I actually see here that's going to make that are going to be big is, I mean, Pfizer. I just checked; it's 1 million shares buy. That's not that big, and it's not moving. Lyft here with a sell for 770. That's actually at least a little bit significant. You saw Uber with some of the chatter about that California ruling was moving into the downside there, and it actually had just gotten crushed into that, I guess, $40 level. Sell and bounce on Lyft is not something I'm going to completely ignore here. Let's go Lyft.
Let me just take a quick look at.
Go ahead.
Yeah, let's just take a quick look at the whole market as an imbalance for the whole market. I forgot to do this. UMC on the sell side of 1.3 million shares. These are the largest in terms of share size. UMC to the sell side 1.3, and LSN to the buy side 1 million, and the ASX to the sell side 1 million. Everything else is fairly small. And like Neil said, Lyft sell side 767,000 shares to this, on the sell side.
Yeah, and I checked it. Lyft actually wasn't even moving off of that number, so not much to see there. I won't be taking a new position in here. Whoops, that's still on. There we go. That's still on Lyft, which didn't move. I'm not going to take a new position, but like I said, context logic was a bit weird because Wish just sort of sat around at those highs, and I was actually trading this while trading GameStop, and I'll go over that in a second because someone had a good question that I should have addressed maybe a little bit better. But this can't seem to break $7, right? So got to file that away. And when I talked about this possibly being a more than one day event, which hasn't necessarily been the case since that new SEC rule came in, Wish does have a nice, interesting level. It's not a great one, but it's not too bad when you start looking back at the 7 even. The fact that it's going to hold up here, so I like the fact that we could be thinking about some good levels that we've got at least for maybe support, and if it breaks, probably some shorting opportunities going into tomorrow. But there was a question about, Neil, you look like you got wrecked on GameStop. So candidly speaking, right? Like if I didn't have outs, I got an out here, took some profit, gotten out, basically break even. Like each one of these, I'm not winning on that. Like I'm not winning on this trade. I'm not winning on this trade. I'm not winning on this trade. This trade, okay, fine. Overall, I won on this trade because it came down and went like $4, but then it just got right back in again. Like these are not big wins. They're all sort of small paper cuts. Like I will never be, and I'll never show you something where I get into a short and I didn't have an out. If you were just shorting all the way, and then had an average price of 200, and then it comes back to 200 and you get flat, like that doesn't make any sense to me. But what you do want to do is, as you realize this is getting ridiculous, show a little bit more patience, which it took me way too long to do. I was far too stubborn about it because if I had waited, 185 was the level I set in the morning. If GameStop got to 185, that's where I think it would make sense to start a short position. Well, the flip side of that was when it started going into like meme madness here to the upside and that level was gone, I probably should have sat it out till 200. Because after it broke 200, I sat it out to 210 and then to 225, and that's what made a lot of sense to me. And then if I take that turn, I could have flipped that switch in my head, then suddenly just even dollar breaks with like ridiculously tight stops could have been on my radar at some of these lower levels. It wasn't, and obviously you can see that that was the case, but there's no chance you're making money shorting on this thing unless you have an out for every trade. And then as it gets more and more parabolic, you get much more discipline with where you're getting in, and then understand that you have to hold it way further because there's more room and these moves to the downside. So, where I was willing to take out 4 and then probably 10 in this particular case, I take that short here and I'm taking $6, and then you're willing to take 15 to 20 on the downside. So you're just scaling it differently, but every single time you're making sure you have a defined out. It's crazy action, and I know we're holding the top end of the range. For those of you looking at AMC, 45 looks like the next level that has to be held. And you want to file these ones away for tomorrow. For those of you that can't trade in the aftermarket, I wouldn't be shocked. We're flat at the end of the day. I got to get out of this context logic pretty soon. But I wouldn't be terribly surprised if we have not taken out 43, or maybe even if we flush in 43 and hold 42, that 45 could be one of those jump off spots in the aftermarket. Typically when so many of these are this strong, 1 or 2 of them are going to go at 4 o'clock, although I won't be participating, as you guys know. But 45 has been a scalper's dream to the short side. I'm staying away from it. It felt a lot safer to me once things settled down to sit in the Robinhood and the context logic trade. And I bet you without looking, cost was probably a much safer thing to be short in this entire time as well.
Yeah, let's take a quick look at the imbalances because they just came out. The update came out. You see this Wish is the largest sell at 96,000. Remember, it was 200,000 at 350, and now it's updated to 96,000. So, I mean, there's not a whole lot there. Let's take the broad market. Take a look at the broad market as a whole. Let me switch that over. New York NASDAQ. And what do we have? 1.7 million to the buy side on NLSN. Exxon, buy side 1.1 million, and everything underneath that is fairly small. I won't say small, but the value is fairly small. It's GM has about 780,000 shares, MDT has 740,000 shares, both to the sell side. So something that I'm used to seeing, but that I'm not seeing now, is some of the big names tend to come out a certain way and then change directions. Specifically, I'm used to seeing Bank of America, Pfizer. There's some big names that used to have huge imbalances, and then they would update or they would change directions or whatever the case was, but there would always be an imbalance that was offset. And I'm not seeing that now, which makes me think, well, has it really gone that quiet in that part in the big blue chip names? Because it tends to come out fairly large, and then, regardless of what happens after the fact, but it does at least show up and provide some opportunity. But now the largest we're seeing is 1.6 million. When it comes to imbalances, I know there was a suggestion for a video about imbalances. I'll just quickly explain it. Whether these guys do a video later or not, I'll leave that up to them. But in terms of imbalances, this is what would like to be done at the end of the day, or what needs to be done in terms of order flow at the end of the day by whether it's at-home traders that want to put a market on close order. You need to specifically tag your order as market on close. And if you tag that order, it shows up in the imbalance locator. That means that many shares need to be done right at the end of the day. The market maker will figure it out and offset that imbalance how they see fit based on the rules of, filling and whatnot. But for now, it does seem like there's 1.2 million shares that need to be bought on NLSN into the end of the day between now and then. But again, doesn't mean the market or that stock's going to take off, because that can be offset in a certain way. And it's up to the market maker to do that in such a fashion that doesn't disrupt the flow of the market. Right now, they might hold a print and all that stuff. That's for another day. That gets very complicated. Just understand that this is the buy interest or sell interest going into the end of the day. Absolutely. As usual, Arun just dropping mics. It's been a wild one, man. So obviously, you don't usually get this in August, so it's been pretty interesting to talk a little bit about risk management, like what we see for trades. And like I was saying in the chat there, someone was asking why didn't you have long in AMC? And with GameStop, I couldn't find any that made any sense. And trying the shorts were just setups that I saw. There were actually some long setups in AMC early on, but at that time I was already distracted looking at 3 other names, and there's just no way I could have. It's hard to focus. You can't take everything at once. So if I was looking at AMC at the time that all this started, probably by pure fluke, you might have actually seen me long in that stock, as opposed to looking for levels which appeared on both Wish, Context Logic, and GameStop on the way up here. There are still some earnings that we're going to look at. Obviously,
So you should be paying attention to, of course, Nordstrom's is going to be reporting. That should be an interesting one, only because of what's going on with some of the retail names and following through. Arun doing a fantastic job, obviously filling in for Sean. Stick around. Trade of the day, believe it or not, because we can't reshoot it. So like it's going to end up being AMD. Like we shoot these things when things slow down after the show is done. So while this mess was going on, there's no chance that we could have actually shot this, so it could have been one of the meme stocks. But stick around. AMD was a good one this morning to the long side. And of course, Alibaba was a good one as well. Lots of fantastic trading opportunities. We had a heck of a lot of fun trading. But as Valeria just said, Miss V just said, it's Randy on the bell. So if you want to turn the volume down just a little bit of a notch, he kind of rings it pretty hard here going into the close. As I'm sure any of you guys that watch the morning show know all about it. Trader TV, Randy on the bell as we drop the countdown. What a day it has been. Unbelievable. I want to say I'm speechless, but I seem to talk anyways. 5, 4, 3, 2, and...
Oh, Randy's switching it up. Just when you give them a warning, he switches it up.
I got mind control over Randy. I knew by saying that Randy would hit it softly and wouldn't break my eardrum.
Did you predict that? This is what happens when you run your mouth too early.
That's premature celebration right there. Wow. So you guys saw me the other day, I was like premature celebrating a CCL short and then told you I deserved it. So he probably should have rang the bell like directly in my ear. I could have waited until after and typed it into the chat. I got you, Randy. I got mind control of you. But I got to talk trash, man. It goes back to the basketball days where, hey, man, what's the point if you can't talk a little bit of smack on it? Heck of a lot of fun. Thank you guys. You guys are obviously amazing, having a heck of a lot of fun in today's trade. And best of luck, certainly. If you're still trading in the aftermarket, best of luck to you. There's still a lot of liquidity, especially looking at AMC. Brendo, how did we fill up?
Yeah, it was a positive end of the session there, guys. We did get a little bit of selling, obviously, coming in at the end of the day there. But my data's not working today. Internet a little bit slow, guys. So I can show you the chart here of the ES. That's best suiting, but about 0.2. To the upside, so you can see after yesterday, we're still kind of holding up at or near all-time highs for the S&P.
Market just needed to consolidate for a day, I guess, right? And then on a consolidation day, you get all this activity, starting with the movers that we had this morning in the watch list, and then now with AMC literally breaking 45 as we speak. So that could be a breakout that's continuing, hopefully, although someone just jammed it back into the downside. So much liquidity. Looks like it's going to be a wild rest of the week here, guys. For the entire team, thank you so much to the community, but thank you so much for the entire team working hard to make it such a great show. Miss V. And I'm going to shout out Trader Pratt as well, because they were working really hard on Memes and Movers, which is close to coming back for the entire production team. I see all of them here. How many times do you get, Maggie's in the building, you got Rob, Lucas, and Trader TV, Randy, for everybody, and for Arun, for Sean, who is sitting somewhere, probably now in like the Cayman Islands, sipping on like VOV. Because of what happened to Cardano. And then for Brennan Wickens, I'm Neil Roberts. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Trader TV Live. And we'll see you tomorrow, guys.